Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the August long weekend here in Toronto, pretty hot and humid. And with all the changes that I've made to my BMC rim brake bike, I'm excited to show you the end result. Let's get into it. Alright, this is my BMC SLR01 rim brake 2020 perhaps or 2019. So if you recall my previous video, I had just purchased this secondhand from Marketplace, and if you recall that video, on the original bike, the first owner had put Ultegra R8000, which means it was an 11-speed mechanical, no Di2, no electronic shifting, and therefore it had two more cables coming off of the shifters into the frame from this side, and then one goes to the rear mech and the other one was coming through the front mech. So having these two cables was like really bothering me, you know. I was trying to get rid of those. There wasn't Di2 versions without a cable. As you know, Shimano 11-speed Di2 has still those cables with the battery and the junction box. So, and they are not wireless, so still you would have seen some cables coming off here, because this frame is for the era that everything was externally routed, right? I mean, obviously this had some internal features like this, and also it was coming through the bottom bracket into the rear mech. But other than that, there was no internal routing available on the front end side. So after some searching, I only found that SRAM Red ETap 11-speed only supports a fully wireless rim brake edition for 11-speed. I believe they have a fourth version for 12-speed, but that was more expensive. Even this one was very expensive. I had to search through eBay and other websites to find all the components. If I recall correctly, I bought the shifters and the front mech from an eBay seller, and also I found this new from a Canadian cycling store from Quebec, and finally I got all this together and, you know, set up the 11-speed Di2. So looking from the front end, you're gonna see that the SRAM Red shifters are pretty slick and nice. The only difference though with the Ultegra shifters is they have around 1 to 2 centimeter shorter reach. So if you take a look at it from this side and compare it with your Ultegra shifters, probably the shifters for Ultegra would end up your hands somewhere around here. And obviously with this change, now I've lost a centimeter of my reach. So, and since I have an integrated stem and, you know, stem handlebar, there was no way for me to change this. This is 120 and this is 38 centimeters. So if I had a choice, I would have gone for a 130 or a 140. But since this was already there and I didn't want to change it, the only change that I managed to do was to lower this a little bit, so coming towards the lower side, so it's gonna extend your arm a little bit. And I changed this one saddle setback just a touch, maybe half a centimeter backward. I know this is not ideal because you want to be more over the bottom bracket, especially on your you know, racing bikes. But since I don't race on this bike, this is mostly for training and indoor rides. If I want to travel with this bike, this is doable. I've tested it. It's fine. My feet is fine with this. So I kind of compensate for what I lost here with these two changes. Now, still, as you know, the rim brake brake cables are exposed. I kind of managed to hide the first one coming underneath the second. You see the second hole instead of the first hole. So it has been routed completely here under into the stem and then coming off of here. And it's kind of, yeah, it's gonna flow nicely. But for the rear brake, there was no way for me to just push this internal because the frame won't allow you, right? You have to go into that hole, so there is no way to just have that sharp jump. It would be almost a 90-degree jump. So I have to live with this for now. If you have any suggestion on how to get rid of this to be less noticeable, I mean, I'll be happy to do that. I've gone this far, and I have reduced 2 cables out of this. So these 2 cables are gone, and I have only left with 2 more cables for the brakes. All right, so let's get into the problems that I had to set up this, because just buying these 4 components, meaning that the front mech, the rear mech, and the 2 shifters, could technically solve my group set change, right? But no, it was much more than that. I wasn't paying attention to the fact that when you have a 24mm Shimano bottom bracket, right, the chain line that it allows for Shimano bikes are around 2mm to 3mm difference with what SRAM needs, because the front mech of SRAM, especially on the 11 speed, is pretty chunky. You see here, it just goes outward a few millimeters. So with my Shimano Holotech Ultegra, because I wanted to keep the crankset as is, but when I rotated this guy, it kind of got stuck behind my front mech, and I just realized, so my chain line has changed. I can't use my Ultegra cranks anymore, and I can't add spacers to the Ultegra cranks because it doesn't allow for a spacer. SRAM, Rotor, and other models have this sort of system here, as you can see with this small screw, and maybe other brands are providing this adjustment collar here as some sort of a preload to adjust your sideway plays, right, with your crank. If you just rotate counterclockwise and then unscrew this screw, it's gonna allow you a little bit of play. If you just rotate it clockwise and then screw this one, it's gonna remove that sideway play. However, this also allows for having spacers, right? But for Shimano cranksets, there is another preload that you just have to rotate it using that Shimano tool, and you don't have any space for any spacer. So if it was allowing me for having like 2 or 3mm spacer, I could have just get away with that. But no, I had to change everything, meaning that I had to find a spindle that is for the bottom bracket 24mm, because my bottom bracket is Shimano. Then the only option available that I found viable and interesting was a rotor crank, right? Rotor I'll do, and for Shimano, and I had to buy the cranks, obviously with the same 172.5mm crank arms. This is what I use for my road bikes. I only use a shorter crank, like a 160 on my TT bike, so I'm pretty fine with like a 172. I don't want to lose any power in that. With that change, I needed to get a new chainring combo as well. I used to have a 336 on my Ultegra R8000, and I had to find the compatible 5236. Now this time with rotor I'll do, and this is like a one-piece chainring. It was pretty expensive. I had to search through market space to buy a quality one, quality used one, and it's kind of fine. It has still some life in it, so I'm gonna use it for now until I decide if I want to go to a 54 or I keep my 52 here. All right, so that also allowed me to have around 3mm to 4mm spacers. You can see there are spacers here. Now it matches the chain line that SRAM expects on the front derailleur to clear. You see, I'm barely clearing my front mech by 2mm or so, and this is safe. I did some sprints on it, everything is fine. So finally I am allowed to run my front mech. Obviously, as you know, front mech of SRAM is notoriously slow. It's fiddly. I had to just play with it a long time, and now I don't even dare to shift when I'm in the top 2 sprockets on the back. I normally shift from my 36 to 52 when I'm in the third or the fourth from the top. I don't want to risk having a chain drop or just damaging the frame over here. Anyhow, that's what it is. I have to live with that. The other thing I had to change was that the derailleur hanger that came with the BMC was Shimano compatible, not a universal SRAM one. So the first time I installed this, the first one wasn't even to be shifted because the derailleur hanger that came with this bike was pushing it lower and to the back. However, I needed to change the derailleur hanger to support SRAM to just bring it just lower, not, you know, inwards or outwards. With that derailleur hanger, which is this one, changed, now everything is settled. So this is the second generation of SRAM Red ETap. They call it A2. It supports and it clears up to 33 sprockets, obviously for SRAM cassettes. I'm still using my old Shimano cassette 1132 and it perfectly clears that. I'm pretty sure if you play with the B screw here, you might be able to get away with 34 as well. I haven't tested it. Obviously you have to change your chain because you're gonna need probably a couple of more chain lines, and probably you should be fine with a 34. Now the good point is, I believe because this crankset is much lighter than Shimano Holotech, I also lost maybe 100 grams or so. So now this bike is even lighter. I weighed it just before coming out, and it's 7.1 kilogram with everything you see here, excluding the pedals. And I'm pretty happy with the outcome, even though I have a very, very heavy wheel set. These are Elite wheels that I love because they're bomb proof. You know, when you brake on your rim brakes, especially for somebody who is 90 kilos, I'd rather have a heavier, more stable, bomb proof rim brake than one of those 1100 grams shallower ones. Happy with that. Even with those, I have a 7.1 super rim brake bike. Section below, Strava told me that last year I had put 6,000 kilometers, all outdoor kilometers on this bike, and I used it in the winter season indoor. So probably I had put another 5 or 6K on it indoors. But so far, after spending like maybe 10K or so on this bike, I'm pretty happy with how it you know, came out. And obviously I'm not gonna race on this because I have my alley sprint for racing, but everything else, if I want to travel, if I want to do long rides, if I want to do some training rides, if I want to do climbing, this is a go-to for me. You know, I love rim brakes, the simplicity, and you can just be your own, you know, home mechanic and then take care of everything, right? All right guys, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about the upgrade, and let me know if you like the outcome. If you have any suggestions or comments, feel free to add it in the comment section below. All right guys, hope you like this video. See you in the next one. Cheers.